Okay. Let's see. We're live. We're live, but nobody's here yet. That's okay. That means I need to share the link. So as you're joining, I am getting a link shared to all of my friends. Welcome, 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 everyone. We're going to have a lot of fun today. I got what I hope is a really fun idea. So let's get this link. And then I'm going to head over here. Drop it like it's hot. Why did I say that? Let me find the actual title I used because I liked it. So we're going to go over here, grab all of that, give it a post. Now I'm posting it on Mastodon. It's already on LinkedIn. You know, the thing that's interesting about LinkedIn is that it shows you the live stream, but then you have like no ability to do anything on the live. Like, it's very weird. Then let's see, where else do we want to put this? We can put this into the Discord. Oh yeah. We're doing great. We're doing great. It is Tuesday morning. I've been up since 6:30. I don't know why. And you know, we're partying. Send it, ship it, publish it. There we go. Okay. Hello, everyone. I believe I've posted this everywhere that it can be posted, and that means that I can pull this over here so that I can actually see what's going on, read some comments, all those good things. Good morning. What's up, Shuram? Elian? Who cares? What a username. Oh, and a profile. What is that? Metalocalypse? Is that the profile picture? Great. And for anybody who's watching wherever you're coming from, I think the most reliable feed is going to be on YouTube. Tends to be the one that works with the least number of issues. So if you need it, that's Murderface. So Murderface, I don't know why I haven't thought of this before, but I get accused sometimes of having resting Murderface, and I don't know why. I don't know why I haven't ever like connected the two. I'm not a plant in the audience. What's up, Charles? So Brian, if anybody's coming in here thinking that Astro already can do a lot, then maybe you won't be as surprised. But I feel like I've talked to a lot of folks, and the framing that I hear from folks doing Astro work or thinking about doing Astro work is that it can't handle as much as they think it does. And you know what I just realized? I think I'm just going to go ahead and let it rip on recording this entire session, because I think I'm going to use this as a series of tips for Astro.Party, which, if you haven't seen Astro.Party, it is a course that we're going to say working on. Working on is maybe generous to me, and a bit of an insult to the badass dev team or skill recordings team, or what are they called now? Are they still badass? I believe they're called. I think badass is still the right name. But so this is a course that I've been working on. It is by no means done, but I think now is the time because Astro 4.0 is coming out. It is, you know, it's such a, like, what a wonderful thing. Astro 4. Yeah, so Astro 4.0 is out. Let me get my screen going here. Screen. Entire screen. Screen 1. All right. So here is, let's see. I think I want to use this one instead, I think. And let me hide my comment. There it is. Okay. And we're going to get this little tag thing out of here because I don't need it. Okay, so you go all the way in that corner. All right, so this is the thing that I'm working on. This is Astro Party. And Astro also went 4.0 today, I think. Was it 4.0? Let's find out. Astro Weekly, tomorrow, Wednesday. Is 4.0 tomorrow? I think so. It's in here somewhere. They put out a thing with a date on it. Tuesday, December 5th. Yeah, so this is 4.0. It's dropping today. I assume it's just very early. Yeah. So we'll be looking for 4.0. Actually, is it out on NPM? Let's see. Heyo, we're at 4.0. So yeah, we'll be playing with 4.0 today. I'm going to be using that for a bunch of different things, and I also just kind of want to talk through some of the different ways things work. So before I do that, let me start recording on devices here. So get the camera, or that's audio. All right, and there's my little video buddies, so that we are in good shape all around the world. What a great day to have this idea that I actually, to be completely honest, I like completely forgot that 4.0 was today. So the timing on this is just exquisite. All right, let's do 4.0. Also just updated. Oh, that's exciting. The docs just got updated to Starlight, which is awesome. Very awesome. Let's see. So any insights or explanation of endpoints or setting up auth using middleware? All right, let's start making a list. Let's make a list of what we want to get done. I'm going to pull up, I like this little eraser tool. It's great for thinking through things. So let's create a new file. And we're going to call this Astro Does a Lot. And so in here, we've got let's see, where can we submit questions? I think for now, put them right in the chat, and I will grab these things out so that I can I can do all of that. So let's see. So we want to cover. So there was a question about endpoints. There was a question about auth and middleware. So we can look at that. Let's talk a little bit talk really briefly about Starlight, because I think that's kind of its own cool thing that is worth talking about. Let's talk about what is the aim of Astro and what's the difference versus other tools. So we can start, that's probably a good starting point. And yeah, why Astro I think is a great starting point. So let's head over to, actually I want to see the new docs site now that it's over on Starlight. So, okay, so let's look at the docs real quick. First and foremost, I'm going to duplicate share this link to the why Astro so that it shows up if you are on my Discord, which you can get on my Discord. Do I have a? I don't have a thing. Join the Discord at lwj.dev/discord. And now I can show that. There you go. So if you want to join my Discord, I have a channel where any link that I share during a live stream will get put over onto a channel there called Show Links. So you can see whatever I share shows up in that channel, so that you can keep things going. Could you create a version of Astro in C and call it Castro? You can do whatever you want, Senor Moose. It's open source. Okay, so this is the Astro docs. These are some of my favorite docs on the internet. Sarah and the rest of the docs team just do a killer job. So check these out. But then these have just been migrated over to Starlight, which I'm going to take a guess that if I click this link, want to build your own docs? Look at that. You click over to Starlight. And so Starlight is, this is wonderful. This is like a docs in a box. You can just deploy this site. It's nice and straightforward. Like, you just kind of get to make it look nice. And I think that's really cool. So I am, I guess if we click through, so you can kind of see the template. You've got the left side, you've got collapsible sections. You've got this kind of movable nav so that you can get through the subsections on the page. And this is all managed through Markdown. It's got some really nice things in it, courtesy of Astro, that I'll get into as we go. It's very nice. Is my Discord the Party Corgi Discord? No. So the Party Corgi Discord, this was actually something that I went back and forth on a little bit. I wasn't sure if the right call was to try to make the Party Corgi Discord home, or if I should create one separately for Learn with Jason. And I didn't really want to create a Discord, because I think creating a Discord is you got to put a lot of effort into one of those. And it's, I don't really, I didn't want to do moderation. I didn't want to, I didn't want to create yet another Discord people had to join. But at the end of the day, the Party Corgi Discord is a community Discord. It's not mine. It was started by Chris Biscardi, but it's not Chris's either. He runs Rust Adventure Discord for his stuff. And we talked about it because both of us were thinking, should we just create sub channels and run a Learn with Jason channel in the Party Corgi Discord? And we ultimately decided that's not the right call. So we both created separate Discords. Party Corgi is great. You should join it. It is, you can find a link, partycorgi.com. There's a link to the Discord in here if you would like to join that. It's a great Discord. It's very good for that's where I hang out to play games. That's where people are sharing projects. It's wonderful. I very much, I love that Discord. The Learn with Jason Discord, which is the one that is linked there, that is more that's where I'm sharing. That's where the schedule is for the show. That's where I'm putting behind the scenes stuff. That's where you can get show links. So that one is definitely less active, but it's a good place to go if you want directly the stuff I'm creating. It goes there. Cool. All right. So what did I just do? I don't want, go away. I want this then. So Starlight is cool. I'm not really going to get into Starlight because Starlight is a project built on top of Astro. It's great. If you need docs, you should use it. It makes your life easier. Just do it. It's great. I, however, am not building a doc site. I want to look at how we can build things with Astro. So Starlight is cool. We'll just kind of leave it at that. So the other things that I want to show is I guess, let's do some context. What is the aim of Astro, and what is the difference versus other tools? I'll start by just let's go full screen and let's go camera 2, because I think we need to talk this through. So Astro, let's see. The way that we've been building frameworks, in my mind, has left sort of two extremes that have both sort of gotten away from what I would say the average dev is doing. And so on the one hand, you've got this big push toward JavaScript only. It's sort of like, I don't know, I always kind of laugh because it sort of reminds me of like the Twilight movies where everybody was Team Edward or Team Jacob. And Team Edward, Team Jacob, those were the two, the vampire and the werewolf. So everybody was kind of Team Edward, Team Jacob. But if you watch those movies, like both of them were a bad choice, right? Like it was a false dichotomy. What the right choice was Team Bella, like go find yourself and learn to be alone and find somebody who like accepts you as you are without change. So relationship advice with Jason. Okay. So anyways, I feel like the way that we've started approaching web development is a little Team Edward, Team Jacob, where there's this belief that you have to go all one way or all the other way, or else you, I don't know, are wrong. But there's like a secret third thing, and I think that's Astro. So the one camp is like Team JavaScript, like all JavaScript all the time. You have to ship JavaScript on every page. You must make everything into a React or a Vue or a Svelte or a whatever component, right? And it's this sort of push that like the trade-offs of shipping lots and lots of JavaScript are worth it because it gives you the app-like feel. It covers dynamic use cases. It allows you to put all of your code base, whatever, into one place. And you know, there's like, I understand the arguments for it. And then on the other side, there's this like never JavaScript camp that says if you ship JavaScript, that's a moral failure. And if you really care about your users, you ship zero JavaScript. And I think that's kind of an unrealistic take as well. And most of the tooling that's out there feels like it's been built to those specs, right? You're either Team JavaScript or Team no JavaScript. And that I feel like that's a false dichotomy. And I think that Astro has sort of stepped in to fill that space of like, why do we have to choose? Like, why does it have to be all or nothing? So what Astro's doing is Astro is giving us the ability to, by default, ship no JavaScript. If you build an Astro site using the defaults, you put stuff up on the page, it's content, and you pull in some components to do layout and everything. Once you ship that, it'll compile down to just HTML and CSS, no JavaScript ships. And for the vast majority of pages on the vast majority of sites, that is the right default choice. You typically, when you look at a website, most of what we're looking at is static content. There's usually very little dynamic content on a page. And so Astro takes that as what I would consider it makes the right thing the easy thing. If you use Astro and you make no changes to its default settings, you will not ship JavaScript that you don't need. And that, I think, is great. But it's not Team no JavaScript, and the reason for that is it has the ability within the framework to easily opt in to shipping a component that's dynamic. You can have it hydrate on the client side, but only that component hydrates. So this is called islands architecture or partial hydration. Or if you need a specific page to be rendered on the server side every time, you can turn on partial server-side rendering. So they have a hybrid mode where you can say a single page needs to be opted into every time. Or if you have a fully dynamic site and you actually hit that very narrow use case where literally everything on your site is dynamic, you can go into full server-side rendered mode and every single page is rendered on every request, right? So Astro's giving you this ability. By default, you're no JavaScript. You can then opt in to client-side JavaScript on a single component, or you can even render a div and do a single page app just like you would with Vite or Create React App or any other framework that is not using a server-side framework. And then when you have need for server-side, you can opt into that on a per page or a per site level. That is freaking cool, right? It is such a good approach to this design because it's not taking it and saying you have to choose one, right? And accept the trade-offs where it doesn't make sense. Because on a dashboard, right? A dashboard, you're going to be behind authentication. It doesn't work without JavaScript anyways. It probably doesn't make a big difference if you ship that as a single page app. And that's what a lot of websites do. If you look at the makeup of what a lot of modern websites are doing, when you log into the dashboard, if you've got JavaScript disabled, it just says turn on JavaScript, right? It's a single page app. So if that's the case, and you know that there's no SEO benefit, and you know that you're not going to support JavaScript by doing all the work to build the no JavaScript fallbacks, then why bother with something like SSR? It's not going to do anything if when it loads the SSR, it's still broken because JavaScript is required. So in that case, ship a single page app. It's great. Astro's really good for that. We'll look at that pattern. I'm going to write that down. Astro, no client JS will be one of them. Astro SP, or let's see, partial hydration will be one of them. We'll do Astro SPAs as one of them. And then we'll do Astro hybrid mode for SSR, and then we'll do Astro server mode. Okay, so we'll go through all the rendering modes and how that solves problems. And ultimately, what that gives us, and why I think this is so cool, is that because you are able to write code using Astro as your framework, and then on a per component or a per page level, opt into the additional complexity that you need, you're able to meet this use case where the vast majority of the internet, the vast majority of any site that gets built is just static content. And that's good. That means that you're serving lightweight information to your users. That's usually what they need. And then when you have something dynamic, you can bring in a component or a page that is fully dynamic and gives the users that support while keeping you in that same code base, allowing you to continue to use the same component system, the same design system, all the tokens and assets that you've put together for your team, so that you don't have to start thinking about microarchitectures or, two versions of the site, one that's rendered static, one that's rendered dynamic, and that are stitched together through Nginx or reverse proxy or something like that. That's all handled for you by the framework. And that's why I think it's so cool. That's why I think it's so powerful. So why don't we, embedded SPI. I think that's a good name for this, and I'll make sure that I use that same terminology. I simply can't believe you're not cooking with JavaScript. I think that's the whole thing. I'm a Twilight stan. Okay, so here's the thing. I actually never watched the Twilight movies. I had never seen the Twilight movies until this year. I'd also never read the books, but when I worked at Netlify and Cassidy Williams was on my team, we once had a meeting where it came out that I hadn't seen the movies or read the books. And so Cassidy, in excruciating detail, like 45 minutes, explained the entire plot of all the Twilight movies to me. So I knew what happened in the movies before I'd ever seen the movies or read the books, thanks to Cassidy Williams and just a fantastic use of company time. We had to schedule that meeting again later because we didn't get anything done. We were all laughing too hard. Okay, so as cool as Astro is, how can we get Astro adopted so we can get paid to work on cool Astro projects? I'm going to talk about that because I think that is actually a really good point. You can do it today, and here's why. People are paying for React. People are paying for Vue projects. They're paying for Svelte projects. They don't care if you are shipping them as Vite, as Create React App on, Webpack, on whatever thing. And so if your company is already using React, you can move it into Astro. If you're already using Vite, Astro uses Vite, right? So you can actually just port the whole thing, just drop it right in, and a Create Vite app will work on Astro. It just works. And that, I think, is kind of the magic here, is that Astro is an incrementally adoptable framework. And if you're already using Svelte or React or Vue or web components or Solid or Quick, whatever you want to use, you can use those components inside of Astro. And you can start by just doing the embedded SPA. Thanks for that term. And the embedded SPA is kind of your entry level. You've mounted your entire app inside of Astro, and then as you add new pages, you can continue to add them in the embedded SPA, or you can start opting them out into Astro style. Maybe you use a content collection for your docs, maybe you use, or for your blog, or for various landing pages. Maybe you start, working some of the ones that just need to be like legal pages and stuff. Maybe those just become markdown pages that the legal team can edit, and you don't have to worry about getting that all wrapped up into paragraph tags and stuff like that. They can do it themselves in Markdown. And as you grow, right, you can just start opting into Astro features, but you never have to. You can use Astro as a really easy way to build your SPA using Vite as the engine, so that you reduce your configuration overhead. You've got this really super fast development server, really, really fast deployments, and it just it's a quality of life improvement with virtually no code base changes. That's cool, right? So this is why I think it's such an exciting tool. Is it just gives us these opportunities to be more. We can be more pragmatic. Like, we don't have to get the company to authorize a 6-month stop the presses, we're going to rewrite the whole thing. You can just say, all right, I'm going to try an experiment. I think I can make our dev environment faster. And you drop the SPA into Astro. Chances are it's going to work. And then now you're an Astro shop without any fundamental changes to the way that the code base is set up. I think that's really cool. So let's dive in here. Where are we at? Oh, partials. Yeah, partials could be great to look at. Let me add that to the list. We're going to look at partials. Cassidy doing that. That is true. I do love. Anytime Cassidy is around, I have a great day. So, any opportunity to get some Cassidy time, you should take it. Doing great. Thanks for being here, Jess. Can Astro turn you into a real astronaut? No. Yes. No? Yes. I don't know. Put on a helmet. Is there a migration path away from Astro? Yeah, because the majority of what you're doing with Astro is you're writing plain HTML. We'll look at this in a second, but you're either writing components like React components or whatever, or you're writing plain HTML. And the configuration part of Astro is sort of like an embedded script tag anywhere else, and most of what you're doing is web standards. So the migration path away from Astro is really straightforward. You could put just about everything that the Astro front matter is doing into, say, a serverless function or an endpoint in another framework, and you would get the same results. So very, very cool. And yeah, in terms of making it easy to revert, let's actually look at that. Let's see how to migrate away from Astro, because I do think that's a good point. Yeah, it works as a meta framework. So outside of building components, and even the stuff that you write in a .astro file extension, there's very little that's like Astro specific, and we'll look at what that means. Okay, so. Context. Let's take a quick look. Astro in Teams. Yeah, let's look at that. So we want to add Astro for Teams. Let's look at, we'll look at like testing. We can look at, let's also look at like fake micro front ends, because I think that's really interesting when you start getting into that space. Because this is like if you need ownership. There's a marketing team that owns the blog. There's a team that owns the landing page. There's a team that owns the dashboard, and you want to have those things kind of split out and separate so that you can work on them independently. That's actually pretty straightforward to do with Astro, and I think quite enjoyable. Like I like it, and it's honestly way better than trying to do this with a true micro front ends where everything's separate and split up. Okay, so let me take this banner down because we don't need it right now. I am going to put this banner up for a quick second because I know, I'm sorry, but if you like this stream, if you subscribe to the channel, especially on YouTube, because that's where the vanity metrics are, if you share this with people, you know, put it on whatever feed you're watching it on, that helps get more people to be aware of this, which means that I get to do more of it. And the more people are watching, the less likely it is that I have to go ask for corporate sponsorship, which means that I can cover whatever I want instead of whatever they'll pay me to cover, which means I can do silly stuff like CSS and games that are otherwise hard to get corporate sponsorship for. So please do subscribe, like, share, tell your friends, tell your friends' friends, tell your mom, tell your cousin. All right. Why don't we actually get into this and do a little bit of it? So let's talk about kind of the core pieces here, because I think these are really interesting. There are a few things that happen inside of a regular website, right? So typically you're going to have a few layers in your website that need to get dealt with. So you've got your client side. You've got your, like, call it middle tier, and then you've got your, like, data layer. And I guess you can call this also, like, biz logic, right? And so the way that this tends to work is that as you're kind of building on the site, what we've done is we've sort of moved back and forth around all of these where, you know, for a while, this would all be one big monolith. You would have, you know, your database call that would run some business logic, and then that would generate markup that would get delivered to the client side. And it's all kind of running in one file. You can see this in certain types of, like, PHP projects or, I guess, React server components today. So the monolithic approach, right? And then when you start, like, getting into bigger teams, then you've got a front end team, you've got a team that's typically dealing with, like, the various services and, like, the business logic and stuff, and then you've got teams that deal with the back ends, and maybe they're setting up APIs, maybe they're your database admins, maybe they are other people, but, like, these are sort of the three concerns that are taken care of in a standard website. And the thing that I find really interesting about these kinds of setups are that, nope, that's not going to work. What I really want to do is just resize these. It's not doing what I want. Because I want these to be, I want to be able to, like, stack a few of these so that I can show some differences. So when you're looking at Astro, like, by default, like, when you put all of your code out here, you have to run a lot of JavaScript, and then the JavaScript starts containing some of this middle tier logic, and, you know, maybe the JavaScript is reaching all the way to the data backend, and you kind of end up with these single page apps that people call full stack because they do everything, but they start to get really big. You're shipping, I think, like 70 kilobytes just as table stakes to ship a lot of modern meta frameworks. And that's fine, I guess, but it feels big and it feels slow. And so the thing that I'm kind of interested in, and the thing that I like about Astro, is that the Astro flow is sort of like in the middle. You've got the, like, we'll call it the it's got this, like, Astro front matter, and this Astro front matter is the business logic and the data access, and then your data can be whatever you want. It can be content collections, it can be a database, it can be an API, it can be, I don't know, you know, markdown files, just a JSON file that you've stuck in there, whatever you want to do, right? And then it can output a few different things. So it can do the like SPA style stuff. It can do static HTML, CSS. and it can even do like SSR. All three of these options are possible out of here. And the way that these end up working is, just realize that I can double click these and type in them so that it's not separate files. That's great. That makes my life so much easier. Let me get rid of that. And then if I take this arrow and I draw up like this, beautiful. Do it again. Oh yeah, look at it go. Then I do it one more time like this. And if I double click on these, can I write? Yes, I can. Oh my goodness, that is wonderful. So this is like app, and you'd write like client only, right? And then here is just like, you just do a component, so not a real difference. And then over here would be output server, or output hybrid, right? And so this, like, fundamentally what's happening inside of Astro doesn't change very much. You're basically doing like the same things. You're putting components on the page, you're putting data on the page, and then you can choose, like, I want this to run in the client. I don't want this to run in the client, but I only want it to render once, so it's static. Or I want this to render every time the page is loaded. And you can set that either to happen on an opt-in basis or by default, right? And so that's really the strength of Astro here, is like all of the ways that we think about getting content to the browser are possible inside of Astro. So let's probably just dive in here. So let's go with a new Astro site, and I'm gonna, oh boy, don't want that. How do I get? Hold on, let me pull my screen down for a second so I can rearrange and get things on the screen properly. I want you over here, and that should be, let's rotate that. Okay, good. So now we can put this back up. Okay. And we will create a new site. So I'm just going to make this a little bigger so we can see what's going on. I'm also going to check. I think I'm in the right profile, but let's just make sure. Nope, I'm not. That's better. So let's clear this. And then we're going to move to learn with JSON, and we're going to say we're going to npm create Astro, and the site I want to create is going to be called Astro Does a Lot. You know what? I'm going to stop that because I don't know if there's a new version of Create Astro, so I'm just going to add that at latest. There is a new version. Here we go. So, I mean, it's still bringing me Astro 4. And I do love the Astro Assistant. So I'm going to start empty so that we can kind of step through all the pieces as we go. I'm going to install my dependencies. Do the dependency dance. I am going to write TypeScript. We'll keep it strict. I'm just kind of going with the defaults here. New Git repository, great. And so now it tells us what to do. We move into the folder. We're going to be able to start it. And then if we want to, we can add frameworks, which we'll get to later. So let's go ahead and move in. Actually, I don't even need to do that. Instead, I'm going to open this project. And that's going to be up here. Open. Okay. So here's our project. And if we look into it, very little to go out of the gate. So it's the Astro config is a default config. We have this page, which is just HTML. And then this is the front matter part that is kind of that's sort of the middle tier of Astro. And then a favicon. This is just some type completion stuff. And that's it, right? That's all that's in here. We've got TypeScript, we've got Astro, and that's all we need. Pretty cool, right? So from here, I can start this server. And I'm going to npm run dev. Okay, so here it goes. It goes to 4321, which is very cute. It's cute. Little countdown for your Astro. So then when we come out here and hit this up, you have a plain old Astro site. And the thing that I think is important about this is, like, let's actually build this here. And let's see what comes out. So this is our Astro page that we created, right? And it's HTML, it's got a head, it's got, here's a generator tag, this Astro generator. That's just to tell people that the site was built with Astro. You can delete that if you want. I wouldn't, because it's nice to know, like, baseline stats of whether or not something's being used. And the reason you need to do this is because Astro generates no artifacts as part of the default build, which means you can't detect an Astro site without something like this. So it's cool to leave it in. Definitely don't need to. So I've built this, and now if we look, there is a dist folder, right? So let's look at what actually came out in this build. Let me make this full screen. I'm gonna hide my terminal, and we're gonna open this up. Let me. So all I've done is added line wrap. This is it. This is everything that got generated. So this, if I save this, it'll auto format. This sure looks a whole lot like this, doesn't it? And this is the magic of Astro. It's only putting out what it needs to put out. We didn't add a script tag. We didn't insert a bunch of stuff. We just got what we put in, right? And that, I think, is so rare for a, like, usually if you're team JavaScript, this would be huge. There would be like a JSON blob with a bunch of metadata that has to be kind of read and then rehydrate the app. And there's all this other stuff in line. There's the baseline JavaScript file that's 30 kilobytes and a bunch of stuff that has to be put in place to make the site even run. That's just table stakes for operating the site at all. With Astro, this is what comes out. You put in some HTML, you get HTML out. There's not even any CSS in this. It is straight up this. This is the entirety of the site that has been generated by Astro. I love it. It's so nice to see. But obviously, like, this is great to start, but we're pretty immediately going to need to do more with it. So let's then jump into the next step, which is making something actually useful, right? So let's make a real site here. And so I'm going to make my first Astro component. So I'm going to get into components. We'll call this one layout.astro. And I'm going to move my whole layout into here. And then what I want to do is I'm just going to change this to be a slot. And a slot is not an Astro concept. This is an HTML standard. You can define a slot using a slot tag. And then why don't we also add our first variable? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the title out of astro.props. And so this is very similar to like how in React you get the props out of the function call and then you pass them in as properties on the component that you use. We can also do something if we want, like let's say type, what is it? It's interface props, and that is title. Wait, let me look this up because I want to make sure I'm leading everyone properly here. Let's go to the Astro docs, and I want to look for props, component props in TypeScript. So interface props, all right, I was right. And then we just set it to be, oh, it'll auto set it for us. Nice, okay, I forgot that it did that. So interface props, and then the title is a string, and then we're gonna use that string here, right? So we can define, we get our props here, and then we can use them here, and it works just like, you know, JSX templating, where you do the curly boy, and then you can drop in whatever is defined up here, right? So, okay, so far so good. So let's go back here and actually use this. I'm going to import layout from components layout. And then all of this becomes my layout. And you can see it's unhappy because it wants title. So I can say title and welcome to my Astro party. All right, so now, is this still running? No. Let me start it again. All right, so we come back over here, check out our site, and we can see that my title showed up, and we can see that also in the elements. If I pull this up, there's our title coming through, right? So it's doing what we want. It's you know, fairly straightforward. Like if you've used any JSX style like component framework, this approach of adding props should look familiar. If you haven't used it before, hopefully it feels fairly approachable. And then I'm gonna just check the comments real quick because I realized I stopped looking. YouTube. Okay, Jess, what were you looking for the YouTube link? Is that why? Maybe not do that on this screen. Here is the YouTube if you want to jump over to the YouTube directly. And let's see. Can you create e-commerce with Astro? That is, the short answer is yes, but I'm going to add it to the notes. And we'll get there. Let's see. Some of us have 4G cellular or worse. Yes, exactly. This is the whole thing is like, we talk about bandwidth like it's something that is, you know, oh, well, if somebody in a rural area with bad internet or somebody in another country that doesn't have strong infrastructure, but like I get crappy internet in my driveway because for whatever reason, the cell phone tower doesn't have good coverage right in my driveway and my internet router's on the opposite side of my house. So like it just doesn't work, right? So I have the slowest internet in the world if I'm trying to look something up on my phone in my driveway. And there are lots of spots around town here in Portland where I don't have a good signal. I'm just, you know, it's whatever. It's my internet is very slow. And there are sites that are absolutely unusable when I am on my phone without 5G internet. And that sucks. And a lot of it is because we build on our, you know, Ethernet connected gigabit fiber home computers, and we just don't ever really check how much the experience sucks if you've got flaky internet. And not just flaky like slow, but like drop packets, like has to restart the download because something went weird. That sort of stuff it's easy to gloss over, like nobody really ever experiences that. But then you get in a train or you walk into a tunnel, you're in the bottom floor of a giant concrete building and your internet is trash and nobody can use your website, right? Like these are important things to consider, and this is something that I think Astro does really well. Would I recommend using Astro for a web app or only for sites? I would recommend using it for a web app. We're going to get into how I would do that as well. Let's see. live on X, yeah, on Twitter. It kind of works. Like somebody sent me a screenshot of it and it was pretty potato quality, but you know, who knows? Can you dynamically update the layout title prop? Yes. Like, yes. There are lots of ways that you can do that. I'm not quite sure what your exact use case would be, but if you've got a more specific issue or like a more specific use case, let me know and I can try to do it. Let's see. Changing IPs partway through a download. Oh my God, yes, what a pain. VDog, cool, very cool. Excited to see what you build. So, all right, so let's dig in here and keep going. Ooh, what's this? Hold on, let's play. Wow, this is cool. You've got debug info. Oh man, what a cool little thing. Okay, so we've got an inspector. No islands detected. Okay. No except, dude. This, I don't know if this is new in Astro 4 or if this is something that dropped in 3 that I haven't noticed yet, but I'm so happy that more frameworks are starting to add these. Like, this is so freaking cool. Okay. Yes. Oh man, that's so cool. Yeah, and then we can turn it off if we need to. Yes. All right. So in dev mode now, we have the ability to like actually inspect. So I'll look at that again in a second when I actually have a component to inspect. But that's freaking cool. It's new, but was teased in 3.6 as experimental. Ah, yes. Okay, so this is the dev overlay. And I've seen something like this before in I think like Nuxt had one that was cool. I think Svelte has added one. And I believe this is going to do what I want it to do. And I'm not going to talk about it until it works, but yeah, let's see that. It's going to be really, really cool. Yeah, a debug menu, like how freaking cool. I love it. These frameworks are getting so dang good. Okay, so let's keep rolling here. So we've got our basics. We have a layout component. Our layout component has the baseline structure of what we need, and then we can add in our body and our slot and stuff like that. And then if we want some shared stuff, we can do it all in plain old HTML and CSS. So we can put in our header and our footer, and we can say something like, built by Jason. All right. We got a footer, and then up in our header, we've got, we can do like a rel home so that people know this is the home link, and say the href is our root, and we'll say Astro Party. And then in here, we can do a nav, and we'll be able to update that as we go. And you know what? Why don't we get into our first little bit of Astro logic here? And I'm going to set up a nav. So we've got an array, and we're going to say the href can be here, and the label can be home. And then we'll add more pages later, but for now we can use this. So let's get this in here. Why doesn't prettier want to work? Whatever, I'll deal with that later. So I've got my nav items, and that's an array of objects. So then in here, just like you would in React or whatever, you can do a map, and you get your item. And then we're going to return an A with an href of item.href. And now note, I don't need to add a key because this isn't React. And if we wanted to add like a class, we can just use class, which, boy, do I love using plain old HTML. So we can call this like nav item or something. And then we put in the item.label. Okay, so now that we've added that, when we come back out here, here's our list. And when we add another one, let's say we want to add about, it just updates, right? Nice and easy. So then let's say we want to add some CSS, right? We want to style this up and make it look a bit nicer. There are a lot of ways that you can do that. You could import a CSS file. You could use something like Tailwind if you wanted. But the way that I like to do it is to just drop it in just like this, because Astro will automatically scope these styles for me so that I don't have to stress about how it works, right? I can just make this stuff do what I want it to do. So let's set the, I don't know, we'll set the body. No, I'm going to set the, we're going to set the body to have a margin of 0. And then I'm going to just kind of like basic reset here. We're going to do a, we'll set up the header, do the header main, which I haven't created yet, and footer. And we're going to set all of those to be width of We'll go with a min of either 90, so whatever the smaller is, of 90% of the viewport width, or call it 500 pixels. Sure, that should be okay. Then we'll do a margin. We'll do margin inline of auto. And then we'll have to style these separately. So I'm also going to wrap this in a main. Okay. Now if we look out here, you can see we've got those kind of set up nicely. Then I can do my header. And we'll say margin block is going to be 3 rem. That feels okay. And maybe we'll do the same thing for the footer, actually. And I don't know. I mean, you probably don't need the is. I'm not talking about CSS today, so I'm not really going to go too deep into this. I like this because then it doesn't break into like multiple lines. Because if you take this off, I guess it didn't auto format. A lot of times it'll break these down into like 3 lines. And I don't know, I kind of like that. It's nice. And if you need to do like a targeting thing too, like something like that, you can do it like that instead of having to type it 3 times. But so there's our base set there. And then I'm going to also set the display to flex, and we'll set the justify content to the space between. Well, Dave Matthews for everybody today. Then in our nav item, I'm going to set that to also be display flex, and we will set the gap to be 1 rem. Yeah, that's looking pretty nice, right? And then why don't we use a little CSS nesting to get to that nav item? Now we could do it like this. Actually, why don't we show how it works without the CSS nesting? Oops. Whoa, what buttons am I pushing right now? There we go. And here we'll say, I don't know, like padding of 0.25, and that gives us a little more space, right? That's nice. Why don't we even like target that home? All right, so now these all kind of match, and there's a little more click space, like you can get to them a little more easily, right? That's nice. I like that. Good. Okay, so there's our baseline styles. It's starting to kind of be a thing. But I want to do a couple of global things. And let me show you why you can't do them in here, because they are scoped. So when you do something like this, if I were to say use my sys font, that'll work because it targets the main and everything. What I don't think it'll do though is if I try to target like the H1, because there's no H1 in here. Let's see if I can do it. Yeah, see, it doesn't work. And the reason it doesn't work is that all of these scopes, all these styles are scoped. So when we come and look at the header, you see here how it's attached this data Astro. And the reason it does that is so that we can carefully we can style on the header in here and not worry about the cascade. And for a lot of people, the reason that CSS stresses them out is because of the cascade, where you might have a style declared over here, but then in this other file you got this other thing that has the same specifier, but then you don't know why it's getting styled differently. It gets really confusing. So with those, you have this specificity here, which means that this H1 has a different tag on it. So this one doesn't have that Astro CID, which means that it won't get targeted. So if we want that to get targeted, we can do that 2 ways. The first one would be we can wrap this with a global. And that's okay. And what that means is that it just doesn't scope the style. So if you've got like a one-off, you want to do it like that, you can do it that way. I personally don't love that approach because it tends to be hard to track down. So instead, what I do is I set up a style of is global, and then I'll throw it in like this. And boy, does that formatting get weird in here. And so now what happens is we have a global style sheet, and that shows up without me having to like escape the scoping or anything like that. And then we have our scoped styles. So something like the nav is still targeted with these CIDs so that we've got like the scoped styles, everything's controlled within the component. So up here, this is usually where I would do stuff like this because I want that to be applied on every page with the same general setup. I'm actually not going to do, I want it to be like this. In fact, we're going to do box sizing. And I want you to be on the HTML, which actually can be in here because that is scoped, right? So then we can do like a font size, and maybe it's going to be nice and big. So like 18 pixels, and we'll do, you know, a color of, oh, I don't know. Let's set a nice like dark gray. So we'll do like a 223. Right, and there's our nice dark gray. Cool, good enough. We're gonna let that ride. So then, now that we've got this basic setup, I'm not gonna go too deep into the styles here. We'll keep them pretty simple, right? So then the next thing that we want to do is, so we've got this ability to kind of drop anything we want in here. Let's make our about link work. So I'm going to create an about.astro, and in this one we can do something like this, and then we just need to import layout from components layout, and give it a title and say something like about Astro Party. Okay. Drop this down here, and now when we click, look at us doing the thing. This is really, really cool, right? Like, I think that is just so nice that you can do something like that so quickly. So like, I love it. Love it, love it, love it. You can't see, what couldn't you see? Was there something that I missed? Advantage of the style is imported in case you want to have separate concerns, a CSS file for styles, an Astro file for markup. Yeah. I mean, it sort of depends on how you're using these, right? So the way that I tend to approach these things is I try to treat the components like they are self-contained units, because typically I'm going to have some kind of like theming going on in my layout file. What I would typically do is I would set up something like, you know, up here I'd start setting up my colors. And we could do something like, you know, the background, and maybe the background is going to be like a really, really light gray, and then the foreground is going to be that dark gray that we talked about. And then down here, we would set up like background would be background, and the color would be foreground. And now anybody who's done design systems knows this wouldn't scale. You gotta have a little bit more going on in your token system. I'm using this strictly as an example. So then you can kind of see like this change. If I were to change this to, let's just make it a more extreme color, you can see now that we've got that kind of happening all over the place. It's doing what we want. And then later, if I want to use this, because I made this global, if I go into my about page, I can say, you know, I want my H1 here to be, this is going to look terrible, but get ready. Oh, it's actually going to disappear entirely because I made it that same color as the background. So it's there. It's the same color as the background, right? So obviously you wouldn't do that. That's not the right call. But the nice thing is that you can put your design system together in a global, you know, imported thing. And, you know, you can do that. Like we could set up like, we'll call it theme.css or something. And actually, why don't we put that in a styles folder so that we can grab it like that. And then up here you would like import. No, what did you just do? Styles.theme.css, and then we can take this global bit and we can relocate that. So here it's what did it? Let's make these red so that we can see the change. Okay, so when I take this out, all right, it's gone. Put it back into my theme.css and it's back. So you can, like, you could put your whole design system together in a shared CSS file and have all of your color tokens and stuff. And then as far as Astro cares, you just need to import that theme.css. And this can come from an NPM package if you're using, Radix or Tailwind or whatever that has kind of an external CSS file, you can import that here. So whatever you want, you can do that. Then we have so cool. We can leave that actually. Why not? We'll make it a theme. So let me turn off the red because we don't need that. So now we've got a home page and we've got an about page. But let's say we need a legal page, right? So our legal page, we don't really need this to be anything special. So what we're going to do is we're going to just set this up to be nice, standard. I'm going to double check before I go too far in here because there is, ooh, not that button, this button. Markdown. So if we create I don't want content collections, I just want the file-based routing. And if I want to set a layout on my markdown, I add this layout. So we'll go layout and that goes up one to components to layout.astro. And then in here, we'll say like legal. These are our legal notices. Okay, so then we can go into our layout here. And actually, why don't we just put this right down in the bottom in the footer where it would go. So we've got so here, now down in the bottom, we go to legal. And look, there's our nice themed page using our legal notices. And when the legal team needs to edit, they can go right into, they can put whatever they want in here, right? Like it's standard markdown. So this to me is special. Like it's great that you can just do that. And note, I didn't have to install a plugin. I didn't have to tweak anything. I just created a markdown file and we're off to the races for that static content that doesn't need anything wild, right? Really, really love that. So can I open my Explorer here? And we can, just want to fix that footer a little bit because it's a little messy. So why don't we have this go to like, I just want those to match so that they're not like blown out by the thing. So, okay, cool. There we go. We've got our baseline layout. We've included like this is how you add global styles. We've got the front matter pulling in our nav items. We've got props coming into our component. We learned how to type those so that we get hints from VS Code when we try to use this component somewhere. We are dropping in content. We've got standard looping through our JSX style, just plain old JavaScript. You got your array of nav items, you map over them, you get the items themselves, and then, we can do scoped styles. And these are all scoped to the component that they're in. And we've got global styles, which are imported at the top of, your layout. And remember, the component that it's imported in has to be used. So like if your layout is used on every page, that's probably where you want to put your global styles and stuff. And then finally, we have looked at how to set up pages that use these, right? And nice and easy. And then we've also got the ability to do Markdown with them. Okay, this is great. Hey, look at us go. So this is pretty dang cool, right? I'm pretty happy about this. So let's take this one step further. We need to do something dynamic, right? So the dynamic thing that I would probably want to do first is, let's say we want to add the ability to, should we just do a counter? I feel like the counter is the standard thing, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it anyway. So why don't we let's add React. I'm going to be able to do React support. So I'm going to npx Astro add, and then we're going to add React. And it's going to guide me through this whole process. Again, the CLI is really, really good. So it's going to show me what it's going to install. So we need the Astro React plugin, but then we also need all the React stuff. We need React itself. We need the React DOM. We need the types for it. We need the types for the React DOM. So yes, I do want all that. Then we have to update our config. And instead of making me do that, making me read the docs, it just says, do you want me to update your config? Why, yes. Yes, I do. Oh, do you want me to update TypeScript so that your React just works? Yeah, sure. Great. Thank you. Then I do that. Wow, isn't that great? So then we get all of our components in here. We can just make a React component. And so I'm going to, make sure that it's clear that I'm using React. And then I'm going to say button.tsx. And in here, we will export const button. And that's going to be a React component that is going to return, let's have it return a button, and we'll have it count up. And why don't we do one of these, and we'll have the current count, and that needs to be set, right? So in here, we're going to set count and set count. That's going to be the result of use state, and we'll default to 0. Then we're going to drop that count in here. And when you click this button, we're going to, oops, can I type? Can't. There it is. We're going to run a set count to be C plus 1. Okay, so now this should be a button that counts up. And I want to use this on my index page. So want to count together. And then we drop in our button. And that button is going to be imported. So button from components React button.tsx. Okay, let's start our dev server again. Whoops. And if we go back home, we've got our count. Now, this isn't going to work because by default, and this is very cool, let's build this site again. So we did our build, got no errors. It runs a check for you, which is pretty cool. And we get our index page again. And so let's look at this. So here is our styles. And let me save this so it formats so that we can kind of look through again. So we get our tagged document. We get the headers that we created. So here's the title. Here's our style, right? All kind of scoped in. And the stuff that's not scoped, notice how these all got inlined. Okay, all right, pretty cool. Then down here, we've got our body, we've got our header. Here's our nav data with our links that we created. We've got our main, our Astro, and then look, y'all. It SSR'd, or more importantly, completely compiled down to HTML, that React component. There is no JavaScript on this page. That is very cool. It is extremely cool that Astro does that, because I didn't have to think about it at all. It just worked. Okay. That is mad. I love it. I love it so much. So, hey, speak of Cassidy. Hi, how are you? We were talking about you earlier and how you once gave us a 45-minute breakdown of the entire plot of Twilight. Does Astro support Preact? It does. It is very, very, very good. All right. Elian, you're talking about the React component not being contained in a subfolder. Yes, that is true. It doesn't need to be in a subfolder, but I am going to show how to combine multiple frameworks into one project, at which point they do need to be separated so that you can identify which folder of components or which framework, or at least you did in 3.0. Did that change in 4.0? Because that would be dope, because that actually was not my it's prevented me from being able to do the migration from Astro to. I know the boops. So I switched over to StreamYard because I wanted to be able to stream on, YouTube and Twitch and LinkedIn and everything. And I also have the problem where my I really like the chaos, but I had a couple guests that really didn't enjoy the complete chaos of the show. And so unfortunately I've disabled a lot of like all of the sound effects and motion stuff in favor of this standard stream. Yeah, chaos off basically. At some point I do want to bring it back, but I do not have the time. I love the idea of this, by the way. That sounds fun. Okay, another day we'll get into that sort of thing. But all right, so just to recap here, we pulled in a React component right here. This React component does a bunch of client-side stuff. It's got our use state and things like that. And we're using it inside of our Astro homepage. But when you look at the actual output, no JavaScript. There is no JavaScript to be found anywhere on this page. And that's because by default, and again, I think this is the right default, if you don't need interactivity, all the JavaScript components get compiled down to their plain HTML. It's so good. It's so good because it means if you're lazy, right? If you take the lazy way out and leave all the defaults on, you get a good result. This isn't like a lot of frameworks where if you are lazy and you leave the defaults on, you skip the performance tuning and the things that would make it fast, and then you get chided by people. This is like, by default, you do the right thing. And that is just, it's the heart of good design. And that's one of the things that really got me excited about Astro is they make the right thing the easy thing. And I've written whole articles about this. It's something that I really, really love. And then they follow another thing. Actually, let me pull up these posts because I talk about them enough that I should have the links. Is it on this site? Let's find out. Right thing, here we go. Right thing, the easy thing, right? Here's a little post about that I think is a good one. I hope that everybody reads it. Why isn't that posting? Here's the actual link. Oh no, something going wrong with my internet connection? No, okay, something weird just happened. That was super weird. Freaked me out. Thought that maybe my YouTube had gone down or something. Is this a young me? This is this is a photo shoot that I did with a friend of mine in 2012, probably. So I was a young man. But so I grew up in Montana, and I like had this incredible apartment. This was the balcony of my apartment. It was out of control. And I then cut my beard into like the worst little choppy, like, what is that called? I can't remember. And then did this like white trash shoot to sort of call back to my Montana roots. You can't see it in this resolution of the photo, but I'm actually dribbling PBR down the front of my shirt in this photo. Anyways, so this, yeah, make the right thing the easy thing. I talk a lot about that. I think it's a very, very important thing. Then the other thing that they do is progressive disclosure of complexity, which is, I think, one of the most important things in modern software design, because it is so easy to hand somebody a box of sharp knives and say, it's your job to be smart, right? And that's not what tools are for. Tools are there to simplify, right? Tools are there to make it easier to do things, not to overwhelm you. You know, it's like you purchase a tool because you know what you want to accomplish, and it lets you accomplish that thing more effectively than you could on your own. If you're getting a tool that has a learning curve so steep that you have to understand every piece of what that tool does before you're able to use the tool, that's not a good tool. That's a very complicated tool. And I don't know. I think if it, like, there are points where that's fun. It can be but fun is different from appropriate for professional usage, if that makes sense. So Astro is very big on this progressive disclosure of complexity. And again, like, we can see that in the way that we build. By default, you just kind of have this, like, here you go. It's just a chunk of HTML. And if you shoot it out, it goes live, right? And then you can put the baseline HTML into a layout, and then you can, put whatever you want in here. And again, it's just HTML. It just puts out HTML. And then as you get into more complex uses, you can pull in your React component and you just embed that on the page, and it just works, right? But now we want to make this actually function. So let's have it run like when it's, I don't know, when the client loads, right? So that means when I start this again, and I come out here and I look, what is happening? That's a fun bug. Oh no. Elian, what happened? I'm not sure why this is happening. Okay, so yeah, something weird happened here. So if this is client only, and in this case, actually, I think this one would be, because this is a useless button with JavaScript disabled, I can set it to be client only. If you want it to be only work when the client is visible, I think we found a 4.0 bug, because this should be working. If we set it to load, then it double loads, but the one that it's loading is working. So yeah, we've got a little bug here, but this will be fixed, I assume, within the day. And then there's a couple other options that we have here. We can go with the media, so you can set it to hydrate with a media query. You can have it run when the browser is idle. So when we save that, that will mean it'll load and it gets to your, like, it lets the browser get to idle. It doesn't block the main thread before it tries to load. And again, that works. But so again, this one is only going to work when JavaScript is enabled. It doesn't do anything otherwise. So we're going to set it to client only. And again, this is pretty dang cool that this just works, right? Like, what magic. So we've been able to cover a lot here so far. So let's see. What else do we want to cover? We want to cover, did this dump my notes? Hello? No. I don't know what happened, but it lost my note. Oh, here we go. Okay, all right. Whew. Okay, good. All right, so we have covered the no client JS. We have covered partial hydration, which is where we enable the single component, right? That's this would be partial hydration. And actually, why don't we fire up a build again to look at what happens here. So we go out to our dist, we get this index again, and we're going to just collapse the styles. So down here, here's our script, and this script is going to fire up when we actually run this thing. Look at this, Astro Island, Astro Slot, right? Okay. So our script, this is the hydration stuff that needs to go in. And then we've got our Astro Island, and you can see because we set it to be client only, it doesn't render anything by default. It's just the kind of the custom web component here, but it's going to be empty because there's no like JavaScript off version of this. So that's sort of our, we're just set up with, you know, here's a piece that will progressively enhance. It will hydrate once the page is loaded. And, oh, the 4.0 blog post is live. Heck yeah, let's go look. Let's get to the blog. Here's Astro 4.0. All right, so the dev toolbar, we found that one. Ooh, internationalization routing. So this is a good like production feature, or if you're running a blog that you translate, that's just going to work. Content caching. Ooh, I want to read about that because that might solve a problem that I have. View transition APIs, that's super cool. We'll look at those. Oh yeah, we should put that in the notes. View transition APIs. Okay. Where did it go? Astro 4.0. Redesign logging, redesign docs. Okay, so, oh yeah, astro.new is also very cool if you want to run astro.new. I always do it in the command line because that's my muscle memory. But this is very cool. The astro.new stuff is great actually because what it does is, where did that go? What did that open? Here. So this will let you open like in StackBlitz and stuff, which I think is really, really cool. So let's go back to this blog post. So the dev toolbar we looked at, we'll look at that a little bit more. Actually, I think we can try it now because I've got that hydrated component. And let's see, internationalization routing. This is very cool. So if you've got prefix folders, you can do different content for the same routes, which is pretty dope. Content caching. Let's see about this. So Astro 4.0 introduces incremental content caching as an experimental new feature, excuse me, to dramatically speed up build performance for large websites. So a website codebase often takes longer to build as the codebase grows over time, sure. Static websites suffer this problem even more dramatically due to regenerating the same pages on every build. Yes, indeed. In Astro 4.0, we introduced caching to help reduce the amount of duplicate unnecessary work done inside the Astro build command. Enabling content caching on the real-world Astro docs codebase saw the build step drop from 133 to 10 seconds. Ooh! And build time was reduced from about 5 minutes to 1. Dope. And similarly impressive results reported in other real-world scenarios. So incremental content caching hooks into the Content Collections API. Astro owns the APIs for accessing and managing your content. The build is able to safely track changes inside of a collection using an internal build manifest. Got it. Astro can check the cache on each build and reuse unchanged content entries. Cool. That's very cool. We'll look at content collections in a minute. And then view transitions API. This is super cool. We'll deal with more of that in a minute so that we can see some of the toys and look at some ways that we can play. But for now, let's get back here and I want to try Look at it. Click to go to file. Hold on. Watch. Wait, where did it go? Why isn't this working? No, are you not going to do it? Dang, I really want this to work. I think this is more likely my VS Code setup than it is. Let me hard refresh my VS Code here. My VS Code is so jacked up. Hold on a second. I'm going to quit entirely. Come back out here. Dang it. I'm 90% sure this is my fault and not the Astro thing not working. What this should be doing is opening up VS Code directly into the file, which is just so dang cool. Like, it's amazing when that stuff works. Do I need an Astro? No, you shouldn't need an Astro VS Code extension. This is like a direct link into the file. Isn't it? Or is this... Wait, do I need the Astro extension? I think I have it, but... Astro, let's look at this. Do I have the latest one? Changelog. I'm not sure. I believe it's up to date, so let me disable reload. Extensions. And let's go to Astro. We're going to enable it. Wait, no, damn it. Okay. Astro. I'm going to enable it. Okay, we're fine. So then when I come out here, I'm going to try one more time. Let's see if this is, I don't know. It could also be, I'm using Arc, so it could be that. There are a lot of reasons that something could be going wrong here. Let me see if Google Chrome does it. Localhost 4321. Oh, the site's not running. I bet that has a lot to do with it. Jeez. Okay. What am I doing here? There we go. All right, let me close this now. Okay, you can go away. You can be hidden. And now no files are open. Okay, we've got this. We're going to hover. We're going to click. If you run the site, it works. I can't. Jesus Christ. I swear I'm good at computers. Okay, so isn't that neat? It worked on the first try. Okay, so that's wonderful. Like, it's just, this is super cool. So if you're debugging and you want to figure out what's going on with something, you just click, it pops you over here. Now you're in the file, you can edit, do whatever you need to do, and you're good to go. Okay, so let me rotate these back around to the position they were in, and I want to look at my notes again. So let's take a look at, man, this thing really doesn't want to keep my changes, does it? There we go. So then we talked about Starlight. So let's talk about Astro, like embedded SPAs. So this is an approach that I think is really interesting. If you are building like an actual dashboard or something, and you wanted to bring in, let's make this bigger. You wanted to bring in like your whole, let's see if I can spell File Explorer. You want to bring in your whole other app, right? You can do that. So we could do something like, let's do an app.tsx. And inside of this, we can export const app equals, I don't know, we'll do something like this. And actually, why don't we even, we'll go just a step, well, what's the easiest way to do this? Because I don't really want to build out a whole React app, but I kind of want to show that they work. So maybe what I can do is go to like the React router docs and just grab, let's just grab their stuff. So we're going to npm install React router DOM. Do I need anything else? No. Okay. So then in here, we can take, let's take this whole file, and this is going to be our app. Okay. So this is the app that we have set up. We want this to run, and I'm going to create another layout for this, and we'll just call this one like app layout.tsx. And the reason that I want to do that is that I want this one to be like even more simplified. Like this one might be, you know, if you're trying to bring over your whole thing, I might actually put none of this in here, and maybe there's not even a footer or anything. And instead, what we want is we just want there to be a slot. And that's really it. We're going to let React manage everything else in this. So then let's see, we can get rid of the, not using that anymore. We can get rid of this part, like cool, whatever. This is going to be our setup. Why are you fighting with me? Man, I don't know how any of that stuff works. Okay, so here's our really, really, really simple, like as simple as I can make it, app layout. So then I can open up my, I'm actually going to open up the sidebar here because we need a page. And maybe this one is called dashboard.astro. And all we want to do in here is we're going to import app layout from components app layout. And then we're going to import app. Nope, not that one. We're going to import app from components, React, app. And down below, we're going to run our layout, app layout, I should say. Give it a title of like dashboard or something. And then down here, we're going to do client only because this is our single page app. It is not intended to be run without JavaScript. Why are you unhappy? TSX is not a module? I don't think that's true. It is a module. I'm going to guess that you're having an issue, so I'm going to npm run dev. Expected semicolon, but found props. What did I do in here? Let's get... So that one's fine. App layout is broken. Oh, I know what I did. I named this the wrong thing. So we're going to, it's not app layout.tsx, it's .astro. Yes. Okay, so now everything should be fine. And when we come back out to here, if I go to /dashboard, could not import components app layout, dashboard, components React app. What are you unhappy about? Is not a module. It is definitely a module. Does not provide an export named switch. Is this a... Oh, are we hitting React router stuff now? We really shouldn't be, though. Like, this should work. No, I changed it to a non-default export. Okay, I might need to bail on the React router part of this because I don't know that I really want to debug React router. Because this should all be working, and I just don't know why it's not. I can't figure out why this is doing the thing that it's doing. Can I just make you reload? Reload workspace. What's the... There's a shortcut for this. Okay, you've got all this switch. Okay, so switch is not... All right, React Router DOM, what does that mean? Did I find old React Router docs? Like, am I on the old version or something? Yarn add React Router. I feel like something is... These are old React Router docs? Okay. Where... React Router. React Router? That's the main branch. Where are my... Browser router? Show me a simple browser router. Do we have a quick start in here anymore? I don't want to do like the whole thing. I just want to see a little one. Is there like a... What if I just want like a little... Or are we back to file-based? Oobly. Okay, is this gonna work? I just want like the littlest example, please. Just give me something I can copy paste, dog. Examples. You, I guess. Basic. Okay, so we're just going to roll with this then, which I hope will work. Seems happier. And it's still unhappy. Expected. Likely forgot to export my... Oh, I probably did. Take that off now. Try again. Oh my goodness. What is happening? Here's the routes. Here's my layout. Where does the layout go? Here's the layout, right? So that's the routes. And then any of these, where does the router... Use routes can only be used in the context of a router component. And that is what is... This is your code. Oh my goodness. Ryan, please. Line 5. There's not even a... That's not even used here. Okay. I think we're giving up. I think we're giving up on React Router because I don't know what's going on, and it's clearly not doing what I thought it would do. So instead, we're going to use TanStack Router. How about that one? Do they have a copy pastable example? I just want to put a freaking like just something basic in here. I want like the most basic example. This looks perfect. Let's try that. Here's my source. Here's my main. Okay. So I need to get TANstack router. We're going to, okay, so we're going to npm uninstall React Router DOM, and then we're going to npm install TANstack router, and then we're going to install TANstack router dev tools, and for some reason we're going to install Axios, and that should give us everything we need. So I'm going to take this whole thing. I'm going to start this up again, npm run dev. We're going to paste this whole thing in here. We don't actually need this part. I don't know how much of this we're actually going to need. So we got all these pieces. Cool. This is all fine. And then we get all those pieces. Cool. I don't need these. Those are auto imported for me. And our exports. This doesn't export anything. So this is my root component. Index routes, post component. Yeah, that seems right. So I'm going to call this app instead. And then I should be able to, what are you unhappy about? You don't like something that I've done. Are you okay now? We don't need React Router DOM. we're just gonna see if this worked. An error occurred. What is going on? Come on, React. TANstack React Router is installed. No, it's not installed. No matching. Oh my goodness. Okay, so do I have to install this also? Yes. Okay. Cool. What? What are you? I don't understand. Why? Jesus Christ. This is why I stopped using React, y'all. Like, this is so frustrating that you just have to do this weird dependency dance. Like, anyways, okay. I install at beta. Neat. Okay, how about now? Can I run this freaking site? Requested module TANstack React Router does not provide an export named error props. Oh my goodness. Can I have what's your hello world? Give me your freaking hello world. Like, I want more basic than this. This is not basic enough. It should have 0 things. Root component. Like, what's going on here? I don't know why this doesn't work. I'm not sure that I care. TANstack router, v1 quick start. Is this on the beta? Is there a way? This is on the beta. All right, let's just roll. I'm going to try this again. And then we're rendering the router provider. Okay, I'm actually going to keep this for a second. We're going to do this, and we are going to export const app That's going to be this. My goodness, y'all. What about now? Now will you run? Hey, look. Just burn an hour trying to get the most basic React shit to work. Okay. So this is and there, we did it. Great. It's a running. Oh, I guess I need to fix this to run subrouted. And the index component is going to be dashboard. Okay, so now when we actually navigate, it still doesn't work. What is happening? Did I not save that? Link to dashboard. And this one is link to dashboard about. There we go. Okay, so now it's actually doing what we want. We have an embedded React app, and this is a full, like, again, this is what we're delivering is like what you would put in your standard HTML thing that you would mount a React app into, and then what the app component is actually doing. Like if we look at our dashboard, is we're just dropping in a single page app. So this is an embedded SPA. And the hardest part by a mile and a half was getting React to function. So, so why would you need Astro to work with client-side routing? You don't. The reason that this is useful, though, is that if you are finding yourself in a situation where you've got a dashboard already built in React, and you were going to ship that on Create React App or Vite or something like that, but then you've got a bunch of other pages that don't need client-side routing, like your marketing homepage, your legal stuff, your privacy notices, your contact page, your every landing page you build, most of your documentation. Like that doesn't need to be client-side routed. That doesn't need to be rendered by React. It's extremely expensive to do so, and it doesn't really make any sense. Then throw your dashboard in as a mounted app component like this. Now you've got an embedded SPA, and everything else is working like this. And now this is shipping no JavaScript, and your dashboard, which was client-side single-page app to begin with, is continuing to ship client-side single-page app. But it's all in the same code base now. And these components, like here, this is a very contrived example where I'm taking like the TanStack quick start, but like these routes would probably use shared components and shared layout and stuff like that. Well, you can pull those shared components around and like build different wrappers and better wrappers and stuff like that, so that you might have, say, a kind of a hybrid setup where your dashboard home and stuff like this, maybe like, why don't we even try it? This might just work on the first try, and that would be really freaking cool. Let me go to our dashboard, and instead of using this layout, let's use the default layout and see what happens. Hey, look, now you've got an app within an app, right? So this is sort of the incremental adoption story here, is that you'd be able to pull out the static footer and the static header and the stuff that doesn't change and embed your app within your app here in a really cool way. And then I need to set up, like you still need your standard redirects to like proxy this back to the dashboard page and all those sorts of, like nothing really changes in that regard. But that's sort of the nice thing, is like nothing really changes. If your app works in Vite or in, you know, what like really like Vite by default, and like if it is functional in Webpack, it with some tweaks will be functional in Vite and therefore Astro. This is really nice, and it provides a really good incremental adoption story. Let me, I guess, tweak this just a little bit so it kind of makes sense. And instead of home, we'll say your account, and we'll call this, I think we call this like billing or something. And then we can say billing, and every use of this becomes billing route, right? And then, oh, I screwed it up. I didn't screw it up. Yeah, no more instances of about. So we can go billing details, your account, right? So boom, easy, right? So now you've got like, you can go to your dashboard, and then we can update the layout to include your dashboard. Dashboard. That is hard for me to type today. And I'm going to have to fix that redirect because that's going to irritate me. But once you get in here, look, we are now navigating our Astro site with an embedded single page app that could run our entire dashboard in here. What a magical time to be alive. Like, just beautiful. And like, it can be any, like I'm using it for a dashboard example, but this could be like if you've got a contact form flow that is really complex and like only works if you've got JavaScript, or really anything that you're building that like you need subrouting, or it's a complex app that has a ton of state and you don't need the partial hydration thing because the whole thing is very dynamic and all interlinked, then you've got that option, but it's not an either or, right? And I think that's the big thing is when you're looking at this embedded app, you can choose how big the component is that you hydrate, and it can be the entire page. It can be an entire subroute, like in the case of a dashboard, where you're saying like, yeah, once you get into the dashboard, you're just looking at a single page app because there's not really any reason for other parts of that to be partially rendered or anything. It's all so tied to the currently logged in user and all of those different things. So then let's, I guess, use that. Let's say we did Astro SPAs. Okay, let's look at hybrid mode and server mode, and then we can dig in. Then we'll look at, we should have enough time. We'll do hybrid mode, server mode. I'm going to move these two down actually because I want to make sure we get to them. And we covered Starlight as well. Okay. So let's do hybrid mode. So then the next thing that we might want to do is, let's say we want to build a page, and on that page, let's go in here, and I'm going to create a page for, let's call it schedule. And this page is going to show, yeah, there's that autocomplete. Restarting VS Code solved some of my problems. Let's see, upcoming episodes. And we're going to take advantage of the fact that I made the Learn with JSON schedule into an API endpoint. Let's see, upcoming episodes of Learn with JSON. And then down here, we have a to-do. But I can then go to my layout, and we can create another one of these. And we'll say schedule and schedule. And then if we pop out here, we've got a link to the schedule, and there we go. So let's make this actually work. And to do that, we are going to do a little digging in here. Let's see, where do I want to do this? No, I'm in the wrong file. Let's get into the schedule. So up here, I want to get my episodes. So we're going to get episodes, and the way we're going to do that is we're going to await. We have top level await, very cool. We have access to the fetch API with no modifications or extensions or customizations. It is the web standard fetch API, which I love. So here we go. We're going to go to learn with json.dev/API/v2, and then we're going to get the schedule. And then this is actually going to be the response. So then we're going to get the episodes. be await response.json, right? And then for each episode, we're gonna print data, but why don't we for now just like stringify the whole thing? And we'll do episodes null, format it just a little bit so it looks nicer. Okay, so we've got that, and there we go. We have our data. Okay, so then we can update this. I'm realizing now this is probably not the best example because this is going to work really well as static data, but we'll make it hybrid anyways because that way we can kind of show that things are happening. So then when we're testing, we can do I'm going to set up we'll do a list. So we'll do a unordered list, and for each episode we're going to do episodes .map, and that'll give us an episode, which we're then going to use to return a list item, and each list item, and again, we don't need to key because we're not in React. Then we can do like a, let's just keep it simple. We'll do the episode.title, and then we'll say with episode.guest name, and then we'll say episode.uri and details. Okay, so here is our upcoming list, and we'll just put that in parentheses. And then I can get rid of the dump. There we go. Okay, so this is great. We're already happy here. I'm feeling good. This could be used. We could put in images and stuff if we wanted to, but for now, this is good enough. I'm feeling okay about it. But the thing I want to do is I want this to reload on. Let's assume that this data changed more than once every day or two. So we're going to set this up to be hybrid mode. And the thing that I love about this and why this is so freaking cool is that making hybrid mode work is like, oh, come on, give me my auto. So we get all of these pieces here. Very cool. So I go to server. I go to output. That's not what I wanted at all. I want output. That's it. And then I get hybrid, server, or static. So static is default. We're going to use hybrid, and I'll show you why. Because when you choose hybrid mode, that means that by default, this is still static. Like all these pages are still static. If I choose server, all the pages on every page load unless I opt out. And for the vast majority of sites that I build, that's just not necessary. I want things to be static by default, and I want to opt into the server rendering. So I'm going to then go over to my schedule page, and to make this, currently it's static, I want to make it server rendered. Export const pre-render. Oh, it did that for me. And I'm going to set it to false. So now this page is server rendered, and every time I reload, it's going to hit this fetch endpoint and get me the updated data. So if I have frequently changing data and I want to make sure that it's loaded before the page renders and not done with a client-side fetch or something like that, I can do this. This is now an option for me. And I'm just going to any that so it doesn't yell at me. So this is pretty dang cool. Like I love what this unlocks, because it means that if somebody's saying like, well, we can't use Astro because it's only static. Nah, it's not. It's server-side rendered. And if you say, but our entire site is server-side rendered, cool, so is Astro, right? Like, and this is where I think it's so powerful, is that you're able to do kind of whatever you need at whatever scale you need, and you just progressively opt in to more and more complexity. By default, no config. It's all static. Everything just works. You need some client-side JavaScript? Cool. Add React or Svelte or Preact or Vue or whatever. And then you choose which components are rendered to static versus which ones need to render on the client side. And you can choose if they're client only or both, if they're hydrated. Then you decide, okay, maybe I want a whole page to be run, and that's what we get here. We've got this client-only component working. You've got static stuff. You've got a fully embedded SPA. So this is a React app inside of an Astro app, which is great if you're bringing, incremental adoption. And then you've got this whole page that just needs to update every time. You never want stale data, and it's okay to wait for that server round trip. It's okay to hammer your server with a request per load because you've decided that's worth doing. Cool, all good. Here's how it works. You export this const, export const pre-render equals false. You're off to the races. So really, really powerful workflows here, and it really gives you so much flexibility as a developer and as a team too. So let's keep rolling because we've got a little less than an hour left, and I want to make sure we cover all of this. You're like determined not to keep my settings. Look at it doing the doubles. So that's hybrid mode. We looked at server mode. I'm not going to like turn it on because I personally don't ever really need hybrid mode. I'm usually pretty happy with server mode. I'm usually really happy with hybrid mode. But let's look at partials. And partials are pretty new to me, so I'm going to look at the docs. And I have all my shortcuts crossed up in my head. And let's look at this. So partials are really interesting because it's a way for you to like pull in a page without any of the doc type stuff. And I don't know if I'm going to do, I don't know. I guess I could bring in some HTMX. We could do some like basic HTMX here. Is that okay? Do I want that? I don't know. We can. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, why don't we just add a little bit of HTMX here? So for me to include HTMX Astro. Is that the one? Is this the one I used last time? No, that's something else. Is it Astro HTMX? Is that what it was? Where's this actual... There's like a plugin for it that I'm not finding. Oh, hey, look. I just had Jack teach me about this, so why don't we go look at what Jack and I did. So in here, we installed Astro HTMX. Okay, so let's get Astro HTMX. And this one, I don't think... This one doesn't have a... like a setup from the Astro CLI. So we're going to install that directly. And as far as I know, Astro HTMX and htmx.org are the ones that we need. So I'm going to run that. And then we have to open up our astro.config. And, you know, this is also probably worth mentioning just because it's a good example of like, you don't have to put like, you don't have to use the CLI. You can build your own custom integrations and stuff. I just usually don't because I so far really haven't needed to. So let's get into the HTMX piece here. We're going to grab HTMX and we'll drop that in. And then let's grab this HTMX integration here. And it's going to be interesting to see, do I need... I think this will run without any adapter for now, and then I'll have to get it. I'll have to decide if I'm running this on Node or if I'm going to do it on like serverless functions with the Netlify or something similar. Let's just try it and see if it'll let me do it. npm run dev. Okay, we're watching for file changes. Good. Now let me pull up. I think we just want to kind of look at our pages. Let's look at. Don't really need the whole boost. I just want the little bit of. Here we go. Okay. So what I need then is I need to create a partial. And so we'll call this, I don't know, we'll call it, if you were using HTMX, this could be like your search results, but I'm going to make it something much simpler, and we're just going to call this HTMX demo. And I'm going to explicitly tag it as a partial. You don't need to do that, but that's mainly so that I don't forget. And then we're going to get into the partial itself, which is this one. And for this to be a partial, you export this constant partial. Ta-da! And then you put out whatever you want. So we'll say like a div, and we'll give it an h2, and we'll say I'm partial. Okay. So then out here, we can set up something like htmx.astro, and we will set up, I'm just kind of doing some basics here. Let's get the layout, and we'll give it a title of HTMX demo. And inside, we're going to have a how partials work. And then we're going to have, I'm going to do a, let's say, div with an ID of partial demo. And I guess we will just close that up. Then we'll add a button. And that button is going to be what we use to load the partial. And the way that these work is we will say hx trigger, and I think it's click, and we'll say, I think so. And then hx target equals partial demo. At least I'm pretty sure that's how this works. Hx get is probably fine, and we're gonna go to the, was it just called, no, it was called something else. HTMX demo.partial. HTMX demo.partial, I think. Okay, so now we're gonna find really interesting things in whether or not I understand how this actually works. So let's go to HTMX. Hey, first try. Look at that. Okay, so that probably doesn't seem that impressive on its face, or I mean, maybe it does if you've never seen this before. But let me turn this off, and it works, right? So why does the partial part matter? So check this out. In here, we're getting, when I load this partial, in my network, we've got the partial, and it is where? Here. And if we look at all this stuff that came back, look, there's junk, there's junk, there's junk. We don't need it, right? We don't need this stuff. What we want is just this part here. So watch what happens when we save this. We reload, we load the partial, and this is what came back. Look, it's just the pieces that we need. So for something like HTMX, where you are trying to pull back pieces of code like this, a partial just means it turns off all of the Astro wrapper stuff that would be sent, like the doc type and those sorts of things, to just minimize the amount of transfer over the wire, to make it just a tiny bit faster, and to eliminate any potential issues if there are other wrappers and stuff that would be included. So partials, very cool. let's go deeper down the rabbit hole here. Where, I think that should be fine. Upcoming episodes, fine. The layout is fine. Okay, so next we want to get into endpoints. And the way that endpoints work is you can set up kind of any sort of endpoint that you want here. I feel like these are a really cool way to get into a whole bunch of stuff inside of Astro. So let's get my docs up here, and then I'm going to, am I not? Oh, we're in the, it's not my docs. Oh, man, the Control P versus Control K kills me. So if we want to set up an endpoint, we can just kind of put anything we want in here that has a .ts instead of a like .astro or whatever. We're saying we want a .ts. So I want my API, and so we'll create a folder called API, and we'll say like snacks.json.ts. And actually you don't, it doesn't need to be like .json.ts. That's just if you want it to be like listed as a JSON file. So let's actually do it without. So I can then export an async function, and it doesn't even need to be async because I'm not going to do anything async, but we'll keep it async just for the sake of keeping things simple. And we call it get. So you give it the name of the actual HTTP method that you want to use. So get, post, delete, options, etc. And that then will receive, you get params if you need them, which, yeah, why don't we make that work? And then we'll have our request, and the request would be like if you want to get the refer or something like that. We're not going to use that in this one. So then in here, I can return a new response, and that response is a HTML standard response, right? So if we want to send JSON, we're going to stringify some JSON, and we'll do a list of snacks is what I wanted. And in here, we'll give it an ID, we'll give it a name, and we'll call it, I don't know, we'll say pizza, and deliciousness is going to be 10. All right. So that's one snack. Let's do two more. Do tortilla chips. Deliciousness. Almost as good as pizza. And then we'll do one more, and this is going to be raw broccoli. Spelled it wrong. Always get that backwards. Raw broccoli, and the deliciousness of raw broccoli, like it's not gross, but it, you know, a good example. I heard this from a dietitian, and they were like, you know, if you're worried that you're eating when you're not hungry, you should consider if you're hungry enough to eat raw broccoli, and if you're not hungry. Which is why the deliciousness is too. So here we go. We got our basic setup here, and we're not using those params yet, so why don't we leave them out for now? And then if I go out here to my site and I pull up API snacks, look at that. We're delivering JSON. We now have a REST endpoint. And I don't even know why I air quoted that. It's a REST endpoint. You can do this. Like, this one's hard coded, but you could pull this from your database. You could pull this from another API. You could pull it from a third-party service. Like, whatever you're using, you can now deliver a JSON version of whatever you want. And you can also deliver, like, you could deliver XML if you want. You could deliver whatever, because you are delivering a response object, right? So down here, you can set like more. Oh wait, I'm in the JSON, not in the. Oops, that's not the piece. It's this piece. You have all these options, right? So, is it headers? Oh wait, no, I need to make it like this, and then I can do headers, and I can do content. I gotta quote it. Content type is application JSON, right? So now we're like, we could send this as XML. We can send images. We can send whatever you want because it's a response, not an Astro special type. It just works, right? So this, magical. So let's dig in a little bit deeper here. And let's get in to auth. Okay, so there are a bunch of ways to do auth. I am going to get into the absolute simplest way that I can think of because the specifics of it are going to get very like use case based. But in general, you can do quite a bit here, and you can make it pretty dang powerful. So I'm going to add a new endpoint, and that endpoint is going to live. I guess we'll just stick it in here. We'll call this one auth.ts, and we can say. Actually, why don't I just copy a lot of this and then we'll get in here. We're not going to return this bit, but here's what I will do is I'm going to get out of the request. Actually, do I get access to... It's in the request. So I want the token to be request... cookies. No. Oh, shoot. Where is this? It's in here. I just got to look it up. Astro.cookies. It's in here. So astro.cookies.get, and we're going to get token. All right. So we'll say, and we're going to just do a toggle. So if there is not a token, then I don't know what that was. If there's not a token, we are going to Astro. We'll just await Astro dot stop helping me dot cookies dot set token, and I need to double check how this works. We get our options, and our options we can set like HTTP only to true. Domain. Wait, is it domain? Path. Right? Okay, so why are you unhappy? Like, what's going on? And so you should work, I believe. Endpoints, calling endpoints from the server, static points. Oh, does it come out of the context? Okay, so let's go to endpoints again. And the endpoints get a context object. So we're going to do it in context instead of Astro. And there we go. Implicitly has an any type. Oh, and we get, look at that. There's our types that we needed. So I'm going to import this, and then we will change this up. Context does not exist on type. Context object. Get is the, get is the context. So it would be like this. Ta-da! And then we'll make this async here. Okay. Cool. So now what we should see is we will await context cookies delete token. Okay, so what should happen here is I'm going to, can I just set headers? No, I need to return like a redirecting, and then we're gonna set headers. Oops. And so the headers is going to be a location, and we're going to show, we'll just go to the home page for now because that'll be easier, and then set the status to a 301 so that it will do that redirect for us. So basically anytime you log in or out, it's going to redirect you to the home page, but what we should see when we do this is that it will update our cookies. And I might have to do this through a post. We'll see. We'll see if it works. So let me head to my auth. Took me to the home page. Let's look at our cookies. And I don't think it worked. It didn't work, and I need to check why it didn't work. Because it's not throwing any errors. Okay, so my token is undefined, which should mean that this is doing what I want. Oh, I'm doing this wrong. Set key value and then option. So we need to be setting the token to logged in, and then I need to get that signature to work properly. And now when I hit it, API auth, it's still not doing what I want. Oh, wait. It's logging Astro cookie, HTTP only, true, and path. Okay. So it's kind of doing something. What is... Am I doing this wrong? I feel like I'm definitely doing this wrong. So I want to look at Astro context cookies set. Cookies. Yeah, but I want to see it in action. Show me an actual example. Cookies. If cookies has, we do a cookies get, and then to cookie set, we set the value. Yeah, so that should be working. If I really just want to show the basics of this, not like a full-blown security setup here. So we're going to do API auth, and there we go. It's the HTTP only. So I would need to do this through a post, and lots of things that we would need to do to make that work. Actually, you know what? Let's just make it work. Let's go into, how much time do we have? 30 minutes? We can do this. So I'm going to add a form in my header here. And we're going to send you to API auth. And when you log in, it's going to button type equals submit. And it will say log in. And we're going to make that smart enough to also log you out if you don't need to. So let's log in. There's our token. Oh. Because we need to update our auth to be post. Continue. There you go. Okay, so now we've got that. And I think I can make this HTTP only again. Let's try. I'm going to delete this. Okay, let's log in. There's the token. Hit it again. Should be deleting that. But I also just realized that we have context cookies has token. Then then it should be still not deleting it. I wonder why. Context cookies delete. What is going wrong? Cookie set, cookies. Cookies delete. Cookies has token like that. Oh! Man, I woke up too early today. So if there is not a token, then we set the token. If there is a token, then we delete the token. Let's try this one more time. So log in, log out. It's still not doing what I want. I'm going to take this HTTP only out just because I think it could be. Is it just that, like, am I trying to get too precise here? So I log in. Oh, now it's like, see that? It's adding and removing it at the same time. That seems wrong. If it doesn't have the token, set the token. So why would it hit twice? Maybe I just need to check. I guess I can set in this layout, do like an input type hidden and say value or name is action and value is login. And then in our auth, we can instead check const data equals await context request form data. Is that a function call? Yes. And then I can do action equals data.get.action. And we'll say if action equals login, then we want to set logged in. And then if action equals log out, we'll delete that token. So we're going to have to build that piece, but that should get us closer. So why won't that stick? Like, what's happening? Are y'all seeing that? So I'm doing something wrong. That's okay. This is how we learn. And I want to path, like it should be okay to hit the whole path. So I log in and there's my token. Okay. So then what we want to check is if we are in fact logged in. And so in my layout, I'm going to do, so this is where you get into like server mode, right? Where you would want to, if you want the whole site to be protected, you would make this server mode. And why don't we do that for now? So now everything is going to render on every page, which means that in my layout, I can do something like, let's go if astro.cookies has token. We're going to start with let action equal login. And if we are logged in, we're going to change to log out, and we'll also do that for button label log in, and button label will become log out. Okay. Then we need to set these to use those values. Button label think this is going to work. Action. Okay, so it says we're logged in. Now if I log out, it's still doing it. Okay, I'm doing something wrong. I mean, I definitely delegate this to a service, but I am trying to show the simple version, and the challenge that I'm hitting here is that apparently I'm doing something wrong with the way that I'm removing this token. And the thing that I'm doing wrong, honestly, I'm not sure. So cookies delete has no effect on this type of expression. Okay, so we don't need that. And so I need to have my options. Oh, do I need to match my options? Options such as the path of the cookie. Yes, I have to have the same options. Ta-da! Look at it go, y'all. All right, so we're logging in. We're logging out. Okay. Everybody's happy. So we've got some details here. Everything's doing what we want. Now let's go make our dashboard password protected, so you can only get to the dashboard if you have access to it. So if astro.cookies.has token, actually we're going to do that the other way. If you're not logged in, then we are going to Astro. Wait, there's a way to do this. It's I just want to do a redirect real quick. And I'm going, no, I don't want that. As they use the site, I'm going to return an astro.redirect to the homepage. Okay, so now we are making a check, and again, this is server rendered, so this will happen on every page load. If you are logged in, you will be able to see the dashboard. Okay, works as expected. All right, let's go home. Let's log out. Let's go to the dashboard. Can't do it. Not happening. Not allowed. So this is basic route protection in Astro, and the way that you generate this token is going to be, you could use an OAuth2 flow, you could use something like Clerk or AuthKit, you could use Okta or Auth0, whatever your preferred solution is, you will be able to identify in your session, usually through a token or something else, that you have a logged in user. And then in Astro, you just check if you have this logged in user. I like using cookies for this because you can make them HTTP only. Actually, let me go check that. Ooh, this should work now. We should be able to say HTTP only, true. And same thing up here. Okay, so let's log in and log out. And log in and log out. And here's why this is cool. When you do it HTTP only, that means that the folks who might try to like scrape your cookie value through JavaScript can't do it. It is HTTP only. You cannot access it through JavaScript. You can only access it through a like server-side endpoint. So the endpoint like we're using in Auth, or in the pre-rendering part of the server-side rendering part of your Astro component, that front matter, that runs in a secure server-side environment. Nobody can get to that code from the client side, which means we can use a HTTP-only token, a no JavaScript token. Great for security. Delightful. So now we're logged in. We're logged in with an HTTP-only account, and if we log out, can't get back to that dashboard. We've done auth in Astro, everyone. Again, you would need to do a little more here if you wanted to make that like actual auth, because all we did was add a toggle for setting that token. I really like Clerk and AuthKit for getting started with this sort of thing, and they will give you a token that you can check. It's really nice. There is an example if you want to see it on the Learn with Jason GitHub. Which one was it? It was the habit tracker. Where did I actually, is it 41A? productivity tracker. This was the one. So the clerk team actually did a really, really helpful setup for me of all the things that you need to like get clerk server side only running in, or mostly server side running in Astro. Very, very cool stuff. And the way that that ended up actually functioning was in the API. We've got this, where is it? We're getting the auth out of this Astro clerk. And then that means that in our route, we can check if there's auth, and if there is auth and you're not logged in, you just log out, right? That kind of nice thing. And then inside of clerk auth, get auth is in this function here. And you know, this is a little more involved because we're grabbing clerk stuff and doing all these things. But ultimately what we're doing is we are attempting to authenticate the request. We are checking for the, you know, we're using the clerk front end API and publishable key. And then if they're not logged in, we throw them a 401. Otherwise we grab that auth and send off the user, and we're off to the races. So really, really nice flow. You can do it in Astro. Let me actually send a link to this repo. Yeah, so I think the thing that is really good about Astro is that what you're doing in Astro is you are defining. Why are you unhappy? Oh, it doesn't work on. Okay. Let me just double check that that still works. Log in, log out, log in, log out. Perfect. Okay. So the nice thing about this is like when you actually start looking at this code, you have what is effectively a serverless function. Like if you were to write this in an AWS Lambda, if you were to write it in Netlify functions, or you know on Vercel's any of the serverless as a service, the code in here is really, really similar. Like you would probably be using a cookie library instead of this built-in context object, but otherwise this is still just a cookie. You know, this is the form data API that's a browser standard. This is the signature for cookies, or for setting cookies, which is a browser standard. The response is a browser standard. So this is what you would do in server code if you're writing it in JavaScript, right? If you have to change something, it's because you're moving to a framework that doesn't use web standards. And this is, you know, it's nice and self-contained. And then when you get over into something like this, you have your server-side code here where you're able to, like, this is the stuff that happens before the page renders, and this is the stuff that happens on the client side. And what you're getting out, unless you add one of these client only, this ends up all being HTML. Or CSS if you include it. That's pretty dang slick. So you know that this is server side, it's safe. You can do whatever you need to do on it. And this is what's going to show up on the client side. And unless you explicitly opt in to client side interaction, none of this ever makes it to the client side, right? If you want to add client side JavaScript, you actually need to add a script tag and do it out here, you know, like, because if I console, I'll show you. If I console log hello, and then let's see, let's pull this up. I'll make this smaller. I'm going to go to the dashboard. I guess I got to log in first. And then see this console log, this is server side. It is not available in my console here, right? So if I want a console log out of an Astro page in the browser, I got to go put it down here. And now we get that console log. So you have to explicitly opt in to client-side stuff. By default, everything is happening in either the pre-rendering step if you're using static or hybrid mode, or if you opt into the server mode, either through server mode or a hybrid mode with the pre-render set to false, then this will happen on every page load on the server side, either through a serverless function or node or whatever you're running it on. Pretty dang cool, right? What else is on the list? Let's look at what else is here. We need. Whoa! What did I just do? No. Oh God! Did I just no? We're okay. We're okay. I thought I just closed everything. So, how to migrate away from Astro? So, actually, here, look. Here's a bunch of stuff. This, if you want to migrate away, I guess you got to rewrite this component. But otherwise, like, there's nothing fancy here, right? Like, this would fairly easily, like, if we look at the layout, to translate this into a React component, like, I guess you would have to do a search for these, and you would have to go add in keys. That's it. The rest of it's just React, right? And, you know, I guess if you have a bunch of forms, you'd have to make sure that you're using the React specific, like HTML4. But if you're migrating over to, I don't know, plain HTML, like, you just got to look for these pieces, right? So getting off of Astro, if you choose to, there's not a lot of like Astro specific stuff. And if you look at what we've done up here, this is TypeScript. You know, you might have to move this into a function call and then make this the type of those arguments to the function. But like, that's pretty easy to take out. Your cookies check, you'll have to use whatever your new framework's cookies check is, but otherwise logic kind of stays the same. Like it's very, it doesn't have a lot of like get into the Astro box stuff in the framework. And that's a lot of what I value about it is I don't feel like I'm learning Astro. I feel like I'm learning how to use browser standards. And that makes me feel kind of, it makes me feel better about the state of lock-in because we're seeing, you know, Remix is leaning heavily on browser standards and you know, the Vite team is heavy on browser standards. Like we're seeing a push toward more and more browser standards, and that push is leading us to not have to learn all this framework specific stuff. And the more I've worked in this way, where I have, you know, when I want to send a redirect, I send a standard browser response. When I want to get the cookies, I use the cookies API from the browser standards. When I want to deal with what's in the request, when I want to deal with form data, I use browser standards. The more I do that, the more I get frustrated when I open up a framework and the framework has tons of, like, we reinvented how you fetch. We've reinvented how you do a redirect. We've reinvented how you do this other thing. It's like, oh man, the browser standards are good. They're good, and that knowledge is portable. And so to me, it is becoming less and less of like a feature of frameworks. It's more like when I see that now, I'm worried that the framework is trying to lock me in if they're patching a browser standard that's already good enough. And that's what I love about Astro is it's just there's so little of that. So yeah, that's me. It was reasonably smooth to convert from a bespoke framework to Astro using the .astro components as entry points. Yeah, so that's that like embedded SPA thing that I think is really cool, where you pull in like whatever you got. Here's your bespoke app. You drop it in here and by default make it client only, and then you just slowly pull things out of it. I migrated off of one of the serverful frameworks that had, it was all React stuff, and I was able to kind of like ship that whole React app for Learn with JSON and then just kind of pull pages out one at a time until I had fully replaced the app and I was able to decommission the old site. It was great. It was like so nice to be able to do that. Let's see. Yeah, so okay, so quick recap. How does Astro know that the dashboard can't be built as a static page? What I've done right now is I've actually made it so that the entire site is server rendered. And the reason that I did that is because we put that login check in the layout. So every single page needs to do this login check. We could probably change that. We could probably make that work differently. I you know, whatever. We could do it a lot of different ways, but I haven't. Why am I getting a note for a noon call? I don't have a noon call. That's a note that I saved for myself that says self-care. Okay, great. Good. So let's do something like this. Okay, so can you do e-commerce on Astro? You definitely can. I don't have time to build it, but what I will show you is there are going to be lots of good examples. Here is a whole theme for how you can do e-commerce. I won't go deep into this, but yeah, if you want to dive in and get into this, like you can put in Stripe, you can put in a Shopify store, you can put in basically anything that will deliver either that you can like send people to pay, like a Stripe, or something that will deliver your details, like your data, in a headless fashion, like Shopify or Snipcart or BigCommerce or whatever. You can import that data as content, put it on the page, and then and to see how that works, we can go back to this schedule page. You hit the API, you load in whatever data you want, and then down here you render it on the page. So we can grab all of our products, we can get those up on the page, we can use custom components, all those things. And then when we get to the checkout point, we can send them to Shop Pay, we can send them to the Stripe invoicing page, we can send them wherever we need to, right? And it works very similarly to how you would set this up in any other framework. It's pretty great. And then you can decide if you need it to be server rendered so that the inventory is like up to the second, or if you want to use, pre-rendering and the Shopify can like trigger a rebuild of the site whenever something is changed. It's really up to you, whatever's right for your store. But then in the remaining few minutes that we have left, I wanted to show one last thing here, which is I want to play with this View Transitions API for just a hot second because it is wonderful. So to show how this works, we need a little something that we can use. Let's do something like this. We're going to do an about page, and that about page is going to have two people on it. Can I do this fast? Let's find out. So let's go pages. We're going to go team, and we'll do JSON.Astro. I'm just going to do one, actually. So go with the layout. That title is going to be JSON. And we'll do like an H1. And then we'll do, what is my, let's see, JSON.energy. Did I make this work? Yes, that works. Okay, so we're going to come in here and we'll set up an image with a source and an alt. Okay, great. So then I need to import that layout. Components, layout. Cool. All right, so then on my about page, I want to also have, we're going to do href to team JSON, and we'll do this image again. And the alt is going to be JSON. And we'll have this say JSON. Okay, so out here, let's go to our about page. There's me. If you click here, it goes to here. And let's have this do, I do want to have two. So let's do another one. Cassidy was here earlier. So Cassidy, I am taking some liberties. I'm so sorry if you're not into this, but I'm going to, does that work? That does work. Okay, great. So we're going to change this up. It's https github.com/cassidy.png. That's Cassidy. And put another one of these in there. And then when we get over here, we've got nothing. Oh, because I'm on the team page. So there we go. All right, so let's style these just a tiny bit. And the way we're going to do that is we are going to add a style tag. And I'm styling these for a reason because I want them to be, let's go with the main, or no, we'll just give it a div and we'll give it a class of team. And then I need to put one of these in here. Let's go with team is going to be display flex, and the images are going to be max width 100%, and the gap is going to be 2 rem. That should solve it. There we go. Okay, so actually, why don't we make these images 200 pixels so they are the same size. Great. Okay, so now when you click through to one of these, let's create a Cassidy page as well. That one's going to be called Cassidy, and I need to copy paste this detail here. Okay. All right, so we've got these pages. I want these to transition. So for me to transition them, we have, that was cool that it just did that, but that's not really what I wanted. I want to get into the view transitions, and to add a view transition, which is pretty dang cool, I am going to import the view transitions. And I'm just going to put them into the layout because why not? And then we actually drop this into the head. So here it is. Okay. And if we want to get the full view transitions, that's done, right? So then what that should mean is that by default, we get these nice, hey, right? Look at those transitions. Okay, but we can do better. So I'm going to go even further here, and I want to get into naming a transition. And so I can just name this. Watch how cool this is. I can go to my About page, and for Cassidy, we name it Cassidy. For me, we name it me. Then we go into the team, and we do one of these. We do one of those. Now, assuming I did this right, what should happen next is that when I click, oh, the glory of what we were just able to do with like 3 lines of code in like 5 minutes. Is that not just mind-boggling? Like, it's so good. And again, this is a browser API. This is not magic from the Astro team. This is just how the internet works now, and Astro's leveraging it. And they're doing nice things for us. They're polyfilling so that it'll work on browsers that don't have the View Transitions API. They're giving us the opportunity to have some defaults and some presets and some animations. Like, they're doing stuff for us. It's not magic, right? But this means that what we're doing is not something that is Astro specific. It means that Astro is providing the right guardrails to make using the dang platform easier. Magical. Like, it's so good. It's so good, y'all. And that is all the time that we have today. But look what we were able to cover. Like, this is pretty slick how much distance we covered in this 3 hours. It is very, very, very cool. I didn't get into testing. So for testing, you can use whatever you want. Most of your components you would test in the same way that you would test using you could use VTest, you could use Jest, you could use React testing library, or is that what it's called now? I also really like integration tests, so you could use something like Cypress or Playwright or whatever you're feeling to write those tests And it's not going to change very much from the way that you would do it in Next or plain React or Remix or whatever. You're loading up the component, testing the input and output, cool. You're loading up the page, you're testing the interaction and making sure that the things that should be there are there. Same, right? And in terms of micro front ends, the reason I wanted to bring this up is, like, if you've got a team that controls your dashboard, you can put that whole dashboard in like a sub route, a sub folder, and then use code owners on GitHub so that that owner needs to touch those changes. And the only thing that they really don't control is this one little piece here where the app is actually mounted. So you can make micro front ends in Astro without actually having to make micro front ends. You can also go full blown micro front ends and do reverse proxies and set things up to work on different routes. That does work, and it's very much an option. You just don't have to. It's really nice. And that's Astro. Kind of a speed run, but dang, we were able to cover a lot. And I hope you saw some things that Astro can do today that make you more excited about using it, and that hopefully convince you that Astro is actually probably the only framework you need for a pretty large swath of internet use cases. Again, if you want to learn more about Astro, I have this project coming up called astro.party. It's going to be a set of lessons and tutorials and use cases. I'm going to try to go by example as opposed to like repeating the Astro docs. It's going to be more of like, let's build real things and see how Astro does those things. So if you want that, make sure you go and sign up for the site. There's this wonderful, how good is this site, by the way, y'all? This is Vojta and Michelle Holick just doing magic over on the badass side. That's all the time I have today. Thank you all so much for hanging out. We will see you next time. Make sure that you subscribe, like, share the thing. I know, it's a vanity metric, but it really does help. Like, when I go talk to a potential sponsor or whatever, the first thing they're looking at is how many people are watching these things, how many people are subscribed. So please do like, subscribe. It's free for you. It means a lot for me. Thank you all very much. We're going to see you next time.